Hi, good morning. Have you got one of these? Do you know what one of these is? This is an ice scraper. I bought this from Halfords at 99p. You can usually get them for about 50p or something like that for places. This is what we use on our cars, if you didn't know, to scrape the ice off our windows. For years, all my life I've been using these. And then we don't have much ice now compared to what we did years ago. But I used to get in the car after I'd scraped the windows and my hands would be dropping off literally, and I couldn't touch the steering wheel, they were that cold. The other day I went into a garage and I saw this, and it's an ice scraper with a mitt in. I used it a few weeks back. The other day, I said, a few weeks back I should say. I used it and I got in the car and my hands were perfect, and I thought, something so simple that I've seen all my life. I don't know how long they've been around, and I never really took any notice or thought much of them, and I only ever bought these. And I looked at it and I thought, I could do that. I think I can do that. So let's have a go, shall we? Make absolutely fantastic gifts at Christmas. Stocking fillers. So, and use scrap fabric up. So let's have a go. So from this, we're going to turn that into this. And so, if you haven't got any fleece, then I'm using fleece. If you haven't got any of this type, to me there's no difference between fleece. If you haven't got any fleece, you could use quilt batting. If you haven't got any quilt batting, just use cotton. As long as your hand is not touching the ice and it isn't exposed to the outside while you're doing this business, then I should imagine cotton is just as good. So let's go. So I've measured this and I've concluded that my fabric needs to be 11 times 7.5. There's me trying to work things out. I've got a 1/2 inch seam allowance, 11 times 7.5 inches, and then we need a hot glue gun at the end. So this is what I've got. I've got waterproof canvas, and they're both 11 by 7.5, and I've got 2 main fabrics and 2 pieces of fleece and 1/2 inch seam allowance, and we need to do right sides together and just sew down there on 2 of them. The reason my light isn't on is because the bulb's gone, so I've ordered them off eBay, and they won't be here till Wednesday. I've got my walking foot on and a stitch length of 3 because it's thick material, thick fleece, and the walking foot is because fleece wants to move around. As you can see, it's stretched slightly, but then that's fleece for you. You can always adjust it as you're going along. So do that to both ends, so then you end up with right side spacing on both main and lining fabric. Half an inch seam allowance. And there you go. That's what we've got so far. So then once you've done that, then you need to put them right sides together, and you need to put both ends the same together as well. So you want your 2 main fabrics and your 2 lining fabrics together. And because this is fleece, again, it's going to want to move. So the best thing is to put as many clips as you want in to try and stop that. And if you've got a walking foot, I would recommend using a walking foot with fleece. So then what we need to do is just sew down both sides. Don't sew the ends up. Half an inch seam allowance. same the other side. So that's what you should have when you've finished. Now the idea is this, to have this on the outside and the fleece on the inside. So pull them through. So one's on top of the other. If I want it about there, so if I about inch and a half either side. So if I measure inch and a half either side of the seam allowance, and then inch and a half, then I need to do that with the same on of this, the inside, so I need to measure inch and a half. And the same this side, inch and a half from the seam allowance. That's from the seam allowance, I'll just double check that. From where you've sewn it, check that. Yep. So what we need to do is sew both of these on the wrong side, which that one already is, and then I just need to turn that through and measure it on the outside and sew that on the wrong side. So I've turned it back to the wrong side, and now I can see my markings. Half an inch, and you'll have to reinforce this a few times and take it over. And we do the same on the other side. You should be able to see your markings. If not, just transfer them through. Or just measure 1.5 inches again, I suppose. And then pull it through again. Now your gap is smaller, so it might take you a bit longer. But try your best, pull it through. Didn't expect it. Basically, I pulled the fleece right from one side all the way inside and out the hole of the other, and then that's what you end up with. It's easy to do it that way than pull the fleece all the way through. I'm going to press this so that the seams sit a little bit flatter and I can see what I've got, and I need to make sure I need to press the bottom to give me a seam allowance on either side, so I know how much what I'm going to glue from the inside. So press and get my hot glue gun ready. So that's now ready, and the idea is to push the fleece inside. Now I've created, hopefully I can see the seam, so push the lining inside and it should match exactly. Push the corners into the corner of each one, and then you should be able to see it lined up. Now the only way we're going to do this is Just have a think. What I'll do is I'll do one at a time. So then I've pushed the lining down inside and I've put the ice scraper in, and I want it to go across there. So what we're going to do then is, just to get you down there, is to do one at a time. I'm going to do the back first, then the front, roughly around about there. Pull the fleece over the top and then hold it there for a few seconds. Turn it over and then just take your, that's it, and then do the same to the front bit. Be, and then push it in to the grooves. What you want to do is the glue to grab hold of the fleece. That's across there. Then we can pull that back in, hopefully. It should all be the same distance, so I'm going to do that. I need both hands. So what I did here was I cut the sides so I could pull this back in. I cut the main fabric because I'd sewed it too tight. So now what I want to do is make sure it's more or less in the middle and hot glue this on top of the fleece. So pull it back, put a generous amount of glue over there, then lift the seam allowance up and press and hold. Turn it over. You pull all these bits off when they've gone cold. It's basically in the right place. Pull this back. Ouch, 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 ouch. That's hot. And press across there. Now if you want to, you could secure a stitch either side of that, which is what I might do by hand. But in the meantime, put your hand inside and push all the corners out. So the corners go into each other. That's it. And now we have one scraper with, now if you want to pull this out at the top, if you find you've got a little bit too much, you can have a two-tone top. There you go. Have a bit of a border across the top. There you go. There you go. It looks very pretty. Move that out of the way. I have made a ice scraper, the same as I bought one. For a fraction of the cost. There you go. So this one will be winging its way to the son-in-law. I'm just going to catch that with a couple of stitches either side. And if it's, there you go, and it's all inside there. There you go. Put your hand in, hold the scraper, scrape away. Hand stays lovely and toasty, won't get cold. And the scraper will still be able to do its job. There you go. So, thank you very much for joining me. I hope that inspires you. If anyone finds a better or quicker way of doing that, then feel free. Great Christmas gifts. Christmas stocking filler gifts. For the men in your life. Surely most of us have got scrap fabric lying around that we could use. So there you go. Ice scraper. From bought to homemade. Thank you very much for joining me. Please hit the like and subscribe button and come back and watch more videos. Thank you.